I want to tell you a story, and it's not a comfortable one, and it's not a political one. In the way people usually mean politics, it's a physics problem, a math problem, a civilization level engineering problem, and Europe is right at the center of it. When I look at charts, I don't see flags or ideologies, I see trajectories. And right now, Europe's trajectory is bending downward in a way that should scare anyone who cares about the future. So imagine you're running a massive system, something as complex as a rocket or a factory or an entire continent, and the inputs start dropping quietly at first. Fewer workers, fewer children, fewer risk takers, fewer people willing to build the next thing. And at the same time, the outputs, you depend on pensions, healthcare, infrastructure, stability, keep rising because people live longer, which is good, but only if the system can support it. And this is what's happening across Europe. Birth rates below replacement almost everywhere. Italy, Spain, Germany, Eastern Europe. It's like watching a slow motion engine failure where the warning lights have been flashing for decades, but everyone taped over them because dealing with it was inconvenient. And when I say demographic crisis, people think, I mean, some abstract statistic, but what I mean is this: who builds the future? When there aren't enough people who even exist to build it, who pays for the social systems, when the base of the pyramid is smaller than the top, who innovates when the average age keeps rising and the appetite for risk drops, because risk feels different at 50 than it does at 25. And I've seen this in companies. I've seen what happens when you stop hiring young, hungry engineers and you just maintain instead of invent. You don't explode overnight. You just slowly lose relevance. And Europe has incredible history, incredible culture, incredible talent. But history doesn't compound unless you add new people to carry it forward. And right now, Europe is trying to run a 21st century civilization on 20th century demographics, and it doesn't work. The math doesn't care how beautiful your cities are or how proud your past is. And I know people get uncomfortable talking about birth rates because it touches culture, economics, identity, but reality doesn't care about discomfort. If you want to sustain a civilization, you need people, full stop, and outsourcing that problem indefinitely. Through immigration, without integration, without growth, without a shared sense of mission, just creates new tensions instead of solving the core issue, which is that having children has become economically, emotionally, and socially harder than it should ever be. And that's a design failure when a society makes it feel irrational to have a family. It's selecting itself out of existence. And I don't say that dramatically, I say it literally. Because below replacement, fertility sustained over time equals decline. It's just exponential decay, and you can't subsidize your way out of that forever. You can't regulate your way out of it. You have to make people believe the future is worth investing in with their lives and their kids. And that means housing that's affordable, jobs that are meaningful, cities that aren't optimized only for tourists and retirees, and a culture that doesn't quietly tell young people that ambition and family are incompatible. And I think Europe still has a chance because the infrastructure is there, the education is there, the potential is enormous, but the window isn't infinite. Demographics move slowly, but once momentum is lost, it's incredibly hard to reverse. And I've learned from rockets that the hardest moment is lift off, not cruising. You need the most energy at the beginning, and Europe needs that energy again. It needs to decide that survival is not automatic, that prosperity is not guaranteed, that the future is something you build deliberately, and if it doesn't, then what you'll see isn't some sudden collapse. It'll be museums instead of laboratories, regulations instead of innovation, nostalgia instead of progress. And eventually, the center of gravity of the world just moves on, not because anyone wanted Europe to fail, but because it chose comfort over continuity, and physics always wins in the end. And the strange thing is that none of this is sudden. It's not like a meteor hit. It's more like gravity slowly pulling everything down while everyone argues about the color of the paint on the walls. And when I talk to leaders or read reports, I hear a lot of focus on short-term stability, quarterly cycles, election cycles, keeping things calm today. But civilizations don't fail because of one bad year. They fail because they optimize for now, at the expense of next. And Europe has become incredibly good at preserving what exists, and strangely bad at creating what doesn't yet exist, and that shows up demographically, because having children is the ultimate long-term investment. It's the biggest vote of confidence you can cast in the future, and when millions of people independently decide not to do that, it's not because they're selfish or broken, it's because the system is sending a very clear signal that the future is expensive, uncertain, and unforgiving, and humans respond rationally to incentives every time. And I've seen this with technology too. If you punish risk, you get stagnation. If you punish builders, you get spectators. And Europe has built a world where young people are highly educated, deeply aware of global problems, and simultaneously boxed in by costs, bureaucracy, and social pressure. And then everyone is surprised when they delay adulthood, delay families, delay commitment indefinitely, and delay eventually becomes never. And what worries me most is that once a society crosses a certain age threshold, it starts voting for preservation over transformation, and that makes course correction even harder because the people who would benefit most from radical change don't exist in sufficient numbers yet to demand it. And that's a feedback loop. An aging society designs policies for aging societies, which accelerates aging, and at some point, no amount of money or migration can rebalance that equation because trust, cohesion, and shared purpose start to fray. And I want to be clear, technology alone won't save this. AI, robots, automation, all of that can help productivity, but they don't replace meaning, they don't replace generational renewal. They don't sit around dinner tables or imagine futures that don't exist yet. And if you think of civilization as a relay race, Europe is in danger of running out of hands to pass the baton to. And you can't fix that with a press release or a summit. You fix it by making it possible again to believe that building a life is better than endlessly optimizing an individual one. And that means hard choices, deregulating where it matters, building housing fast, not slowly rewarding parents instead of penalizing them socially and financially, trusting young people with responsibility instead of treating them like liabilities, and maybe most importantly, telling a story about the future that isn't just about avoiding disaster, but about creating something worth inheriting, because humans don't reproduce to maintain spreadsheets. They reproduce to participate in something larger than themselves. And if Europe can rediscover that sense of mission, if it can shift from managing decline to engineering renewal, then the same continent that once launched renaissances and revolutions could do it again. But if it doesn't, demographics will keep doing what they always do, silently, relentlessly, without ideology, without mercy, just following the math, and the math doesn't negotiate.